Hello everyone and welcome to the showdown between the Dwarves led by Runelord and the Vampire Counts who are going to be led by Manuel von Karstein. So let's jump right into this match guys and have some fun. So for the Dawi front line we do have a very heavy core of blasting charges. In total we have two groups of miners, one on each flank, and they're going to be anchored in the center by the Norgamling's Iron Breakers. So I definitely feel like the blasting charges are very necessary in this matchup. Oftentimes you're going to be running into Vampire Counts armies that use skeletons and zombies and just kind of a chaff units that are supported by like corpse carts and maybe even the Helm and Gorst. So having those blasting charges to clear out the chaff relatively quickly I think is very useful. So the two miners, the Norgamling's Iron Breakers in the middle, of course, do have blasting charges of their own, and I think they have more ammunition. Let's see, 2 and 1. Yeah, so they actually do. But really, these guys are one of those must-bring units. Even though you often run into Graveguard with great weapons and the Sternsmen and things like that in the front line, these guys, their stats are just too good to pass up. I mean, 82 melee defense is going to put most units at almost the minimum hit cap. And they have 40 melee attack, which when you compare it to their melee defense looks bad, but that's actually a really high value. So these guys are pretty much unbreakable, just a must-bring unit in my opinion. On top of that, we have a Runelord, and he is on the Anvil. And the reason I put him on the Anvil in this matchup, you can see the Locus of Power is going to give your entire army plus 15%. So I think the Dwarf base is 25 plus 15, so they're going to be up to 40, which is very powerful. You guys have probably seen countless videos on YouTube of dwarves being killed by Winds of Death or Fated Buna on your Norgamling's Ironbreakers, so having the Locus of Power in this matchup I think is very important. Rune of Wrath and Ruin and the Master Rune of Negation for the runes in the secondary line. Probably one of the best units, if not the best unit on the Dwarf roster in my opinion. Well, I guess it's kind of unfair to say that because they serve different purposes. But as far as ranged units go, the BUGMAN's Rangers are just so darn powerful. They have regeneration, so if the Vampire Counts are summoning zombies or skeletons or attacking you with Fellbats, they're going to heal through most of that very pitiful damage. And on top of that, these guys are beasts in melee. You can see they're rocking 29 melee attack right now. Well, what is giving them? Are they getting some sort of buff? I always thought it was lower, but man, 29, 38 melee defense, which is absurdly high. And they also have a 31 weapon strength in melee. So that's really good. And on top of that, they have pretty good range stats. And they're constantly healing and they have charge defense. Man, these guys are just monsters. So we have the BUGMAN's Rangers. We got 3 groups of those to take out Mortis Engines and Corpse Carts and just give us some ranged utility. Dragonback Slayers protecting one group, and Slayers here on the far side. We have 2 groups of Longbeards with great weapons, so 1 on each side of our formation. And the reason why I put them out here in auxiliary is because they have charge defense. So if enemy cav came, like Blood Knights or Black Knights, they're going to be pretty tough. So that's pretty much it for my army. For my opponent, he has Manuel up here. We'll just call him Manuel for now. Manfred von Karstein. Winds of Death, so he was obviously looking to come for that booty right there with that Winds of Death. He has Spirit Leech, Invocation of Nehek, and Raised Dead. On top of that, he has 2 Fellbats, so some pretty good harass tools, and I do think Manfred is the best choice. And one of the few Vampire Lords you can get away with using a Winds of Death without like just wasting all of your Winds of Magic and really getting punished is Manfred, because he does have the really good Winds of Magic regeneration. For the rest of his army, Graveguard, some great weapons. It looks like he has a combination of both. He also has Cryptors with some AP. The BUGMAN's Rangers are a very good answer to Cryptors for sure. Corpse Cart, so he has one here with the Unholy Lodestone, another one on the far side, which is actually making the stats on these guys pretty darn good. He has a Mortis Engine, so I definitely need to take that out, and a White King. So without further ado, guys, let's get this show on the road. So the Fellbats are kind of just circling around my army, and I didn't have line of sight till like just right now, because his army was on a bit of a lip. You can see here there's not the best line of sight for the Dawi, so I had to kind of form ranks relatively quickly and just get my bearings. He did try and come in with the Fellbats and harass a little bit. Obviously, get in there and see what I have, because the BUGMAN's Rangers do have stock, so he didn't know I had them until he flew over my army. So for any of you guys playing Vampire Counts against the Dwarves, you always got to bring like 1 or 2 Fellbats. They're just so darn good. So the BUGMAN's Rangers are just shooting into the Mortis Engine, which is a little bit overextended, taking some damage, and the Blasting Charge is coming in and just smacking those Cryptors in the face. And what's kind of cool is even if it doesn't do a lot of damage, it does disrupt the charge in the formation of like even heavily armored infantry. So the Sternsmen obviously take like no damage there. The other volley of blasting charges coming in, and I don't know if I get a charge here. I'm not sure if I do. The Norgamling's Ironbreakers do have charge defense against all, and I accidentally pathed in the Runelord because I told the Norgamling's Ironbreakers to attack, but they just throw the blasting charges unless you tell them otherwise. So I get a little bit overzealous here, but it should be fine. My opponent does summon some zombies here, so I'm going to be pulling in my Longbeards with great weapons to deal with them, and the Slayers just kind of massacre them, really quickly here. And that allows my BUGMAN's Rangers to keep fighting, which is nice. This other group of BUGMAN's Rangers, I do also have my miners with blasting charges protecting these 2 groups. And you can see his Fellbats are just going to be flying overhead. Manfred's just going to be spamming zombies for most of the game. Because the way I set up my formation, it's not going to be really great for like a Winds of Death. He could get one like here and maybe like take out these miners and Longbeards, but really it's probably not going to be worth it. So right here he's going to be summoning some skeletons or zombies. It looks like it's going to be zombies on top of the BUGMAN's Rangers. But these guys are definitely all about that brawl life. So they're just going to get in there and just massacre these zombies. You can see like within a second or 2 of the zombies being summoned, they're already taking a ton of damage. they're going to go down very quickly. So that's why I think that the Bugman's Rangers are a little bit better than Quarrelers. Quarrelers are good because they have armor and shields, but in this matchup, you don't really need the armor, I feel, because you're mostly just dealing with zombies and things like that. So, and I think the regeneration really makes up for it. So the Rune Lord does have to pull back from the front line, but the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, just the beasts of the Dawi, just holding back these great weapons, and great weapons do have really low melee attack. I think they have like 24, 25, so they're not going to be able to hit the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers very consistently. So some of his Cryptors did push through, but you can see the Slayers. Did one of those Slayers just jump off his head? Like that guy right there? It looked like he was like standing on top of him. But the Slayers anyways are going to come in and support. I really wanted to protect my Rune Lord and make sure that this center engagement was won, because the Mortis Engine is obviously nearby draining and applying some pretty good pressure, so I really need to make sure to do well there. On the far side, my opponent's formation is doing a little bit better. The Graveguard, even without the great weapons, are actually winning this matchup versus Longbeards. Maybe that's because of the Corpse Guard or some other variables that I didn't see. Maybe the Mortis Engine was over here, but regardless, the Cryptors have been kind of cycling in and out and, re-engaging. When my Slayers engage, they pull back, and definitely some good play from my opponent here. So they're going to come in and just, oh man, that Longbeard definitely did not meet a good end. But my Bugman's Rangers are back online. They're going to be shooting over here at the Claw of Nagash, doing some really good damage, so kind of keeping it back. My opponent's been having to retreat with it all game and just kind of stick and move. The Bugman's Rangers just doing excellent work. And so this is what I wanted to show you guys. So if you look here at the Bugman's Rangers, look at their HP. Just take a look right now. So 47, 26, it is literally healing almost faster than an entire group of like zombie or infantry units can do damage to them. So definitely very nice. And honestly, they probably won't even lose a model here, and they'll be able to heal back up to full health. So I definitely like that quite a bit. So these zombies are being put down. In the middle, you can see the Fellbats and are trying to shut down my Bugman's Rangers, which is a very good play for my opponent. Definitely trying to buy time for his, Mortis Engine to heal up a little bit. And he does get an Invocation of Nehek. So definitely some good stuff. So in the middle, the Dragonback Slayers and the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are doing a really good job. You can see my Rune Lord here supporting them. And it looks like we're going to be able to drag down this White King. We do have these Slayers with their anti-large bonus, and even though the White King does have decent armor, the anti-large of those Slayers is definitely going to make a pretty substantial difference there. So a lot of these Cryptors are in critical binding, 2 to 10 leadership, and they're starting to go down here. So we're definitely going to win this center engagement. However, the flanks are looking a little bit less optimal for us. These Corpse Guards and Graveguard on the far sides have been getting through my Longbeards. Right here, they're able to collapse our Longbeards, and the Mortis Engine is just going to come barreling down into my formation. So it gets right into my Bugman's Rangers, who've been fighting hard this entire game against summoned skeletons and zombies. But thankfully, I do have these two groups of Bugmen. So these ones fought the zombies off, and obviously Manfred can't be everywhere at once. He's having to run around and heal. So I'm going to be getting these Bugman's Rangers online. You can see the volleys are going to be coming into that Mortis Engine, but all of a sudden there's a huge influx of Vampire Count's troops. So they won a lot of those frontline engagements. So my Miners are able to intercept some of those Graveguard. But these Cryptors can probably push through. You can see they're just getting in there, and they get right into my Bugman's Rangers here, and they're just punting some of them. And my opponent, as his troops push down right here, does very good timing. He flies back here with Manfred, and he's able to pin down these Bugmen so they can't provide Overwatch and take out this Mortis Engine, which is then going to let this Mortis Engine drain and just kind of have its way in this engagement here. So I do have a Thane here. I was able to use a Tormentor Sword. I think it just wore off, but I was able to pin those down temporarily. My Miners are doing an okay job, and the Bugman's Rangers honestly can put up a pretty good fight against Cryptors in melee. And you can see the Cryptors are actually crumbling. So right now I do decide to pull back, and at this point what I wanted to do was just run my Bugman's Rangers out this direction, pull these ones back this way, so if he does want to chase one of them, he's not going to get value from catching 2 or 3 of them at a time. I do also have the 2 Thanes back here, so the Thanes are trying to chase down the Claw of Nagash. I think their Tormentor Sword was almost up. I know I had used one of them. And I could have sworn that I did have another Tormentor Sword. So the Bounce Power is actually in my opponent's favor right now. The 2 Thanes kind of just karate kicking. Oh man, that's Dwarf Jitsu right there, just getting in there and karate kicking one of those Cryptors. And I do also pop a Tormentor Sword right there. So I'm able to pin down the Mortis Engine, which is really good. It's going to allow for some separation with my Bugman's Rangers. Unfortunately, my opponent very well played there, was able to grab some of these Graveguard and chase me down. So I'm just going to have to run and just heal. That's probably the best bet for these guys. Over here on the far side, some more of these Skeleton Warriors were summoned, and after all those summons and even having Manfred attack them, they've only lost 5 models. So right now they're going to turn their crossbows on once they're done cheering and drinking that Bugman's Brew, and hopefully they'll be able to finish off some of these Mortis Engines and Corpse Carts and other shenanigans on the battlefield. So these guys do pull back. I have 49 models here. Right here I also have 55. The other ones, I'm just going to run, because Graveguard are very expensive units, so I figured it would be a bit of a wash if I could just kite them away. And aside from that, he has some skeletons and zombies. He does also have Manfred over here, and let's see who's still fighting. So we have the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers with 57 models, and they're finally getting this White King down. The Rune Lord's in pretty good shape, but still in danger. Manfred could try and assassinate him, and even with the 40% magic resist, I still could, be taking Spirit Leeches and things like that. So you can see Manfred actually came in to try and get him, but I do put the moves on him, and the Rune Lord is able to waddle out of the formation there. But there's also the Sternsman coming up the hill, and they have 84 models and 131 kills. That's really impressive against the Dwarfs. But we've kind of secured this low ground formation. You can see the BUGMAN's Rangers are just wasting this Corpse Guard right here. Balance of power is coming back towards the middle a little bit. On the far side, I do have 9 Brave Dwarves. So these Brave Dwarves here are going to slow down the Grave Guard, which is going to allow for some separation. So the BUGMAN's Rangers are going to get away. These guys are forever remembered in the Ancestors' Tales here, and they're going to just fight to the bitter end to buy time for their fellow Rangers. So the Dwarf Rangers right here are getting some pretty good fire. They're just shooting into the Corpse Guards here. I do have my Rune Lord, who is out of the Rune of Wrath and Ruins. Him and the Thane here are fighting shoulder to shoulder with the remnants of the Dragonback Slayers. And it looks like this Corpse Guard might, it's getting a little bit low. It's taking some, I mean, it's not low, but it's taking some damage is what I'm trying to say. And these BUGMAN's Rangers have pretty good ammo and very healthy model counts. 47 here and 49, just, firing with impunity here. And you can see this Corpse Guard is down to half health. So once we can get that down, that's going to be really nice. It's going to take away the stat augmentations on the Sternsman. And the Ironbreakers here, 140 kills. So these guys are just beasts. You can see just sand flying up as they're fighting in the pits, just pushing forward and trying to take out the Corpse Guard. So it's really nice to have the double Thane, because those Tormentor Swords are going to be coming off cooldown, which is going to be a big AoE debuff on melee attack, even if you're not trying to snipe anything. So Manfred does land in there. He's trying to assassinate my Rune Lord, but I get my 2 Thanes, I use a Tormentor Sword, and they're just like headbutting him and just kicking him and clubbing him with their axes. So definitely going pretty well there, but Manfred's, he's pretty quick on that steed. He's not taking a lot of damage. My Rune Lord is actually broken and has only 194 HP, and Manfred, it looks like he's going to be able to come and finish him off. But in the meantime, we do get that Corpse Guard relatively, it's probably going to be going down here. My other group of BUGMAN's Rangers just kind of sticking and moving, but it looks like those 9 Brave Dwarves unfortunately did meet their end at the hands of these Graveguard, but not before they bought some time for these BUGMAN's Rangers to get like 3 or 4 volleys off. So definitely some good stuff. And now you can see for the first time in the battle, the bounce power does come back in my favor if, I guess it's kind of dead in the middle here. So I was trying to keep my Thanes near my Dwarf Lord here, because I was like, maybe I can rally him and get like 1 more rune off. So you can see Manfred was on the hunt here. But the Norgelming's Ironbreakers throwing some blasting charges in the 4th quarter, just roasting some of these Sternsmen here. So definitely good stuff, and definitely showing who the superior infantry unit is. So right now the Rune Lord is pretty much getting hunted by Manfred, and Manfred does take him out, and unfortunately he's going to squeal and run away here. But the Thanes actually are able to catch up to Manfred, so he gets pinned down by the BUGMAN's Rangers, who are going to satisfy the grudge for sure for seeing their Rune Lord go down. And the 2 Thanes are just kind of whacking on him, doing a really good job, and Manfred's getting pretty close to crumbling. He has a -10 leadership. That karate kick is doing a bunch of damage, and he's probably not long for this earth. So the BUGMAN's Rangers are on the hunt. Some of them do get caught by the Graveguard, but you can see a Tormentor Sword right there, and they satisfy the grudge. So just look at those dwarves just cheering. Such an epic shot right there. And Manfred von Karstein will forever remain in the Tomb King's Desert. I'm sure he's going to be happy about that. So as far as the rest of the Vampire Count's troops go, you can see the Graveguard and all his other buddies are going to be crumbling there, and that is going to be all she wrote. So very well played to my opponent. That was a really back and forth game, definitely very stressful, but the BUGMAN's Rangers just MVPs. I mean, they can fend off the zombies and just all those other shenanigans there, and definitely do a really solid job. Slayers obviously performed as usual. Miners did okay. I mean, they're not going to win, but they allow you to get a more expensive back line in BUGMAN's Rangers and extra Slayers because they're so cheap, and really they honestly hold long enough to pay for their costs. And yeah, I like the rest of the army for sure. And for my opponent's army, Manfred's definitely the best choice. I would recommend probably getting Fated Buna. Winds of Death, although, can be punishing depending on your formation. So either one's fine, but Fated Buna is going to be a little bit safer because you can just pretty much cast it. And even with 40% mitigation, you're going to get some pretty good value on the Ironbreakers here. I don't know. Those Graveguard with regular weapons seem to do pretty well. I mean, normally I go with the great weapons, but honestly, these guys perform quite well. I was impressed, especially with the Corpse Guard support. I like Manfred. The White King was definitely nice to have a little bit of utility, but personally I think their AP is a little bit low to justify in the Dwarf matchup. The one thing, I've never liked Crypt Wars. I can never get them to be terribly effective. I feel like Dwarves have Slayers and BUGMAN's Rangers and Quarrelers and too many things that really just trash can them, but I mean, they did buckle some of my formations relatively quick, but I feel like they're a little bit of a risky pick in my opinion. But aside from that, Mortis Engines can be pretty good. Of course, it suffers the same liability of the Crypt Wars, but if left unpunished, they can really just be game-changing. So definitely some good stuff. So very well played to my opponent, Arendolf. Look forward to running into you again on ladder. And hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing the Dawi in action. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.